Welcome to Happy Hour with the Home Collective. We are your hosts, Bill Ball and Kristen McFeely. Today, Kristen is actually not here. She's traveling. She's in Denver for a real estate conference. So we're going to do something a little bit different today. I recorded a conversation with a friend of mine who recently took a trip to Japan. And I was on Instagram and I saw him posting some photos of him in a Philly cheesesteak shop. And I was like, wait, did Arnold get back into town? And I'm looking at the pictures and I'm like, no, he's still in Japan. This nice Japanese couple actually owns and operates a Philly cheesesteak shop in Tokyo. And it's all swanked out with Philly gear. They love Philly, and it's a pretty cool conversation. So I called up Arnold and I said, hey, man, I was going to just call you and ask you these details. Would you mind stopping by and just doing a record so I could play it on the podcast? And he said, sure. So that's coming up next. Quick market update. The city seems like it's picking up some, so that's a good sign. The weather is nice and buyers are out there and deals are getting done, so things seem to be picking up there. The suburbs are still crazy. We just did an episode about the suburb market, and it's still extremely competitive as it was all of last year and the year before. So just to give you an example, I'll give you a quick story. So I had a client text me this week. This property was a coming soon, and it was like maybe Wednesday or Thursday. And in the description, it said that there was going to be an open house on Saturday. And the property was coming live to the market on Friday. So it was like a coming soon 1 or 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday, or maybe even just Thursday. It goes live Friday, but there's no showings on the property until Saturday. And the open house was at noon. Friday night, I get a text from my client, and she said, oh my God, it says it's under agreement. So this property went under contract Friday night before showings even began. So I reached out to the agent to say, hey, what's going on? He said there was no showings till the open house. And he shot me back a message saying that a buyer submitted an offer, sight unseen, cash, well over the list price. And this was a $900,000 property, and waived all contingencies, and the seller wanted to take it. So don't feel bad if you're losing property on getting outbid. Everybody is. If that gives you an idea of what's still going on in the burbs, it should, because that's what's going on in the burbs, unfortunately. Hopefully we get some more inventory and things chill out there, but it still seems insane. So we'll just have to see how this year plays out. It's just, unfortunately, still a crazy seller market right now in the Philly burbs and South Jersey. South Jersey doesn't seem as crazy as the Philly burbs, but it's still pretty competitive. But to get an offer like that sight unseen is pretty crazy, unfortunately. So buyers, hang in there. There are better days a coming. We do think that things should open up hopefully soon. I mean, it can't just stay at this pace. Impossible. Has to chill out eventually. So hang in there. Another reminder, if you need real estate help anywhere in the country, we do have a link in the show notes. Just click the link. There's just a couple questions in there. If you need help in the Philly area, Kristen and I would be happy to help you. If you need help anywhere in the country, we'll still do a consultation with you, either over the phone or through Zoom or Google Meets. We'll find out what exactly you need, a little bit about your personality, and we'll set you up with a great agent in your area. If you'd like to record a message on the podcast, there's a link in the show notes for that as well. There's also a questionnaire form if you would like to type in a question and have us read it on the next episode. That's fine too. Lastly, in the show notes, I will have a link to this cheesesteak shop in Tokyo. I'll have their Instagram handle in there as well so you can see the photos. I'm also going to post photos to our Instagram page, the Home Collective Happy Hour Instagram page. So I'll leave a link in the show notes for that as well. So sit back and relax and enjoy my conversation with Arnold DiBlasi and the Tokyo Philly Cheesesteak Shop. I first met Arnold back in 2013 when he walked into an open house I was hosting in Fishtown. I helped him buy a house in Northern Liberties, later that year, and just recently, actually it's been about a year now, helped him sell that house and relocate to the burbs. All right, joining us now is my friend Arnold. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. How you been?
I'm good. You came on this podcast kicking and screaming. I had to beg you to do it. It's all good. I still appreciate it. So we were texting a few weeks ago. I went back and looked, and we were just pretty much ranting on how badly the Eagles finished the season.
Oof, it was rough.
We were kind of venting to each other.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned in there that you were going to Japan, and I was like, holy cow. I said, I actually have another past client, who's in Japan right now. So it was pretty wild how I knew two people in Japan, and I don't think I've ever even met anyone in my life who actually went to Japan. So to have like two past clients in Japan was a pretty funny coincidence.
Yeah, I was going over there for work. I love Japan, but I've only been there. This was now my third time, but they were all within the past year. So my first time there was like last April, and now I've made it, like 3 times in like less than a year.
That's pretty wild. So I'm on Instagram, and I'm just scrolling, and I see you post some pictures. Which, by the way, I went back and looked. You pretty much posted no other pictures of Japan except for what we're going to talk about right now.
Yeah.
Which is so funny. So I'm scrolling Instagram, and I see you in a Philly cheesesteak shop in Tokyo.
Yep. Yeah.
And I'm like, what is going on? So I'm thinking, all right, as soon as he gets back, I got to call and get the details. But then as I started thinking about it, I'm like, I'm going to just see if he'll record it. So here we are. I don't even know the details. I only seen the photos on Instagram, which with your permission, I probably would like to share on the Home Collective podcast.
100%.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. So we'll put that out with the episode. So, all right. Here we go. I want to know, let's start off with this. How many days were you in Tokyo before you found this shop?
Well, so I knew about this shop before I even went to Tokyo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
how did you hear about that?
Instagram. Like the guy that runs the shop is on Instagram, and he posts about Philly. And I guess one of my coworkers saw him first, sent him to me, and so I was following him. But when we go work in Japan, we never work in Tokyo. Typically, I actually work like 8-9 hours south of Tokyo, which is why like we can never get to this shop. But for this trip, I was only like an hour outside of Tokyo. So I didn't know if I'd have the time to go visit, but I knew he was on my radar. If I had the time, I was going to definitely try to make it there.
Okay, so I thought you were just like wandering around Tokyo and you saw this shop, but it's pretty cool. He's got, and again, I'll post some of the pictures on the podcast Instagram page, but he's got like real Philly paraphernalia in there. Like who is this guy? Like how did this happen? Did you get the background of the story? Like how did this happen there?
I got some of it. He actually just, I think, did a Philadelphia Inquirer story recently too. I haven't read it, but based on his Instagram, he posted that I think the Philadelphia Inquirer did a story on him. But he just kind of like loves Philly, and so him and his wife run this shop over there, and they have come to Philly now 2 or 3 times to kind of like scope out cheesesteaks places over here. They do a bunch of like, you should see the pictures. She was scrolling through her phone, showing me all the pictures of the thing. Whenever they order a cheesesteak, they're ordering them breakfast, lunch, and dinner while they're here. They're ordering them 3-4 times a day. Every time they get one, they're measuring length. They got like a little, like a tailor's measuring tape that they carry with them. They're measuring the length. They're measuring the diameter. They're measuring the weight. Like they're doing research so that they can go back to Tokyo and replicate it as close to possible, like as close as they can. It's amazing.
That's wild, man. They probably, I've lived in Philly my whole life. They've probably eaten more cheesesteaks than me. If they're eating them breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Almost definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Like their most recent trip was just a few weeks ago. It was early January. And and they got like the full Philly experience while they were here. So they're eating cheesesteaks 3 times a day. They went to the Eagles Giants game. They went to a Sixers game. They went to a Flyers game. The wife is like in love with Gritty. Like they did it all in like 10, 14 days, however long they were here. It was crazy.
That is wild. And it looks like from the pictures, like he's Japanese, right? Like he's a native of Tokyo. Okay.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, they both grow up in Tokyo, and he just I think he just likes Western culture and kind of gravitated towards Philly. I'm not 100% sure why he picked Philly, but yeah, I walk into this shop and he's in the back in a Real Muto jersey T-shirt and a Phillies cap, just cooking at the grill.
That's just insane.
Yeah.
I love that they come here for research and they're just eating cheesesteaks. Imagine that. Like all the stuff we take for granted, like they're coming here to like really pay attention to and like, make notes and bring back.
Yeah, she was telling me all about like the different styles of cheesesteak that they've kind of found, like an older, greasier style or a more like chopped full style, and like they're trying to like replicate, certain ones. And yeah, I don't know. They seem very dedicated to the craft, and they made a pretty good cheesesteak.
How was the bread there? Like, were they able to get that right or no? I guess that's probably the hardest part.
Yeah, and I think that was probably the most different part. I did very much enjoy the bread, and from talking to them, I found out she makes all the bread and whiz in-house herself, and then he makes a lot of like the cheesesteak and the toppings and everything else. They can't ship whiz, apparently. She's like, we can't get it here, so I've had to kind of like create my own recipe and make my own whiz, and I bake my own bread every day. And so like that was probably the most different than our cheesesteaks, but I still very much enjoyed it. And she's killing it over there with the bread and homemade whiz. Yeah.
Well, God knows what the whiz actually is and what would happen to it during the transportation of it. You know what I mean? It probably mutate into some other form.
I did mention that to her. I was like, your whiz is probably fresher than anything we get, even without the shipping, because we know that, ours is ultra processed. That's not my normal cheesesteak go-to is whiz anyway. So.
Oh, really?
No, I'm double cheese American provolone, and then fried onions is like my go-to around here.
Okay. All right. See, I grew up on just going whiz, and sometimes my friends they'll go with like provolone. All my Italian friends, and they're like, "Oh, why are you doing whiz?" I said because it's like, why am I putting fancy cheese on a cheesesteak? Like it's like putting earrings on a pig. You know what I mean? Just give me the mess. But then, some places like Angelo's, Danny over at Angelo's started using like Cooper Sharp on the cheesesteak. Yep. So now he's really fancying it up. I haven't had that. I don't want to tell him that. He knows.
I haven't had it either, and that's the cook's favorite cheesesteak.
I know. I got to try it.
So they had Angelo's while we were there, and that was his favorite.
Did they really?
Yeah.
That was his favorite? I was going to ask you, like, does he have like a ranking?
They only gave me their favorites, both the husband and the wife. The husband's favorite is Angelo's. They scrolled through the pictures. They showed me the measuring tape next to Angelo's outside, and he loves Angelo's. Her number one cheesesteak is a place I've never even heard of, so now it's on my list to go check out. It's Cafe Carmela up in the Northeast.
Okay.
It's like an Italian shop up in the Northeast, and apparently it is her favorite cheesesteak. So now that's on my short list to go try.
Oh yeah, I don't think I've heard of it either. I mean,
Cafe Carmela's
the only one. I'm so bad with getting out of South Philly for cheesesteaks. Like the Alessandro's I've had, right? That's Roxborough, right? I think
that was one of the ones we were talking about. Yeah, Roxborough area. Yeah. I guess that was one of the ones that she was equating like different styles. She was like, that's the one that's like an overloaded, like bogged down cheesesteak. And I was like, I love D'Alessandro's. That's like one of my favorites, but it is like a very heavy cheesesteak. And so I guess the Cafe Carmela one's lighter than that. I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
Did they mention John's at all? John's roast pork?
Yeah, they had pictures of the roast pork and the cheesesteak from John's roast pork. They like both of those.
I got to check. Yep. Do you know off the top of your head what their Instagram handle is?
Not off the top of my head. I can send it to you afterwards. It's like the like the little section of the city they're in, like Nobochi something. Nobochi Philly is like their Instagram handle, and it's their section of the city and the name of their shop, because the name of their shop's just Philly.
Okay, so what I'll do is you'll text me later, and then I'll put their Instagram handle in the show notes of this episode. So if you're listening, just go to the show notes. You can click on their shop name in the show notes, and you'll be able to see what we're talking about here. But man, that's so funny. I can't wait I got to tell Danny, over at Angelo's that his cheesesteak is #1 in Japan.
I don't know if he was the one cooking that day, but he might remember them, because they came in and, they took a whole bunch of pictures over there at Angelo's too. So I don't know, but they liked it.
I'll ask him. I'll ask him. I'm going to tag him. Oh, that's so funny. Anything else from that shop was interesting or stick out? I see they had a picture of the Philly regional rail subway system over there on the wall.
Not only did they have a picture of it, so I walk in the shop, and as soon as I walk in, obviously I'm not Japanese, so they ask me where I'm from, and I say Philly, and then everyone in the place is like, oh yeah, like, come on in. And then one of the first things they ask me, right, and they point over to the SEPTA map, and it's the full regional rail SEPTA map. They go, where are you from on the SEPTA map? And I kind of like walk over and I point to my Orkney house, like right just south of Girard. And then they hand me a permanent paint pen, and they go, mark your house on the map. So I mark like where my house was on the map, and she comes over and she like looks and she's like, oh, you're on the trolley line, which was like the closest SEPTA line to my house was on Girard. Order a beer, and she serves it in a pint glass with like the Girard trolley line symbol on the pint glass. She's like, this is your stop. And I was like, oh, this is awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Everything in the shop is like Philly memorabilia. It doesn't matter whether it's Phillies, Eagles, Sixers, Flyers, like Penn. There was a Drexel stuff, like SEPTA stuff, like everything in there is Philly related. They got a big John sign, like mural up on the wall. It's really done up, and they really aim to make you kind of like feel at home. If I knew I was making it there, I would have brought them something probably to put up. I didn't know if I was going to have enough time, but I see on their Instagram all the time people bring them like stuff to put up, and so. I'm a Drexel grad, and I think Drexel was a little underrepresented in this place. So if I go back, I might have to bring them some Drexel stuff.
It sounds like you probably will be back. That's amazing, man.
And I'll tell you what, the onion rings were very good there, because they were like that nice Japanese tempura batter.
Oh yeah, I see. You took a picture of them. I see your cheesesteak here.
Yeah, they were good.
So Arnold's cheesesteak, his onion rings, and is that a Japanese beer, or what did they have for beer there?
What did I have? I don't even remember. I think it was just Japanese yellow beer. I don't think it was anything special.
Yeah, I see the trolley line, the trolley line glasses in the picture. All right, cool.
There you go. Yeah, and then for that cheesesteak, they had a whole bunch of toppings in the little paragraph, and then when I ordered it, they were like, "Do you want to sub anything?" And I was like, "No, you make it how you make it, and I want to taste it as like the chef wants it. And maybe when I go back, I'll edit it up." But it had like mushrooms and onions and green pepper and whiz, and yeah, it was good.
That's awesome. Oh my God, now I'm starving. They sound like they're more Philly than some of the shops in Philly.
Yeah, just loves it, leans into it. Yeah. When we were talking to her at the end about like other trips, she said that she's been here in fall and winter, so she wants to kind of try the other seasons. So she was asking a little bit about summer in Philly and whether it's nice. And I was like, well, it's hot and it's humid. It's probably not that much different than Tokyo. But if you come in the summer, I know that you like are here for Philly. You got to hit the Jersey Shore, walk the boardwalk. There's plenty of cheesesteaks down there, but I can't vouch for any of them. So I don't know if any of your listeners got their spot in down on the boardwalk in like Ocean City, Sea Isle, wherever on the Jersey Shore that are like they got good cheesesteak recommendations that they want to at the store a little bit and give them a few places to hit up. But
that's funny. Yeah, maybe we will. But it sounds like that they're just so ensconced in Philly, they probably won't even bother. They're like, well, we're just hanging here. But maybe me and you. How about this? How about if we go to the Northeast spot?
Cafe Carmela. Let's do it.
And then we'll come back and report on it.
I'm in. I'll bring my wife. We'll go up there. We'll take a little taste test, and we'll do a review.
Or maybe we'll just do a cheesesteak review. Maybe we should do a cheesesteak episode, but I feel like I can't do it. Kristen's always telling us to do one, and I'm like, we can't do one. I'm like, come on, I just can't do it. She's like, we gotta do it. So maybe we'll add this to it.
Picking favorites, but that's okay. I still haven't had Angelo's either. Maybe we'll have to do Angelo's and Cafe Carmela. We'll hit both of their top two in one episode.
Let's do it. I'll set it up. Arnold, my man, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on and telling this story.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been great.
That'll wrap up this episode. Thanks again to Arnold DiBlasi for stopping by and sharing his story about his Tokyo Philly cheesesteak shop. We really appreciate it. Thanks, Arnold. Have a good weekend, guys, and Kristen and I will catch you next week at Coffee Break.